Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Petree's Pit from Pillar to Post, the best wrestling podcast in the galaxy. I'm your host, Ray Petree, and I'm joined once again by my co-host, my tag team partner in business, the Tully Blanchard to my Arn Anderson, JDO Double G. How you doing, Jordan?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
I feel like every week I fumble the introduction in one way or the other. So I feel like that was a home run. But anyways,
Good. Don't feel bad. I fumbled the outro last week, so
that's all right. That's okay.
we'll get it straight at some point.
This is episode 8 of Petree's Pit. We kind of have a gauntlet of things to talk about today. You know, Jordan and I watched Full Gear together. We want to talk about that, talk about the star ratings that old Dave Meltzer put out for the matches, what he thought, and how much we disagree. Kind of want to talk about the inflation of star ratings. I feel like over the last 3 or 4 years, um, what we think about the match ratings for this particular pay per view. ESPN 30 under 30 came out this week, which has become sort of an annual tradition for ESPN to sort of gauge the temperature of wrestling right now and what the future looks like and who the rising stars are in the business. So we want to touch on that. We have a lot of thoughts. And then it's been a busy week in wrestling news, I'd say, right, Jordan? So we want to
Yeah.
go over a couple things we've stuck out to us. Before we get into it, please like the video, leave us a comment about what you think about any of the topics we're going to talk about. As always, there are chapters below. You can skip through the video if you'd like, and see what we have to say about a certain topic and let us know what you think. Share the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Um, Helps us out a lot, and we'd love to see you guys return and keep watching these videos. And then follow us on Twitter. In my case, please follow me on Blue Sky. Um, with that all the way, let's get into it. We watched Full Gear last Saturday night together. Sort of a tradition of ours for the AEW pay-per-views. Make dinner, watch the show. What'd you think about the show, George? Just kind of from a broad aspect. What'd you think about it?
I thought it was a good show. Had some good matches on it. Uh, definitely, definitely it wasn't spectacular. But I think there were some good matches, some good moments, for sure. But it was just it was an okay pay per view. It wasn't too high, wasn't too low. Um, But yeah, that's really it. Nothing spectacular.
Do you think it's one of the we've probably watched, I don't know, 6 pay-per-views together this year from AEW. Do you think it's in the better half of the pay-per-views this year or kind of right down the middle? What do you think?
I mean, I would say probably right down the middle. I just, it kind of goes back to there's some matches that I liked that had a good story behind it, had good interest behind it, and the match itself was good. And there's other ones they have on the show that there's just it's just a match. There's no build to it. Um, then they have other matches where it's just I don't care about the people involved. I don't like either I don't like them or either it's just they haven't really done anything to make the match interesting. Um, so I would say it's probably like right down the middle. I don't want to say it was a really bad pay per view because it wasn't.
Mhm.
But I think it was just kind of like a right down the middle type of show.
Sure. Um, what was your least favorite match of the show? Start with the bad.
Least favorite match would probably be gosh, that's tough. I would say probably Ricochet and Takeshita. Would probably be my least favorite. It was between that one and then Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia.
Okay.
Which if Jack Perry had retained, I would say that one without question. But Garcia winning the title was a cool moment, needed to happen. So that pushed it up just a little bit for me. But the other one, and I like Takeshita a lot, but like Ricochet really, hasn't been that impressive since he came to AEW. Um, the international title is, it's had some big names have held it, but it just doesn't feel like that important of a championship.
Hmm.
Like it doesn't have that, that drawing power to me to be like, oh, this guy won the international title. This is a big thing. It's kind of been fumbled around a little bit. Um, so I would say that match was probably the one that I least enjoyed.
Yeah, I would have. I mean, if I were pegging you, I would have guessed that your least favorite was the Garcia Perry match. The Takeshita Ricochet match definitely was a little too long, and it didn't really seem like Ricochet was playing to his strengths. Maybe there's a story there that they were telling about Takeshita's ring generalship, but I don't know. It didn't really resonate with me either. For me, Perry Garcia was the worst match of the show. I can respect that Jack Perry's tried to change his style to wrestle more like a heel, but it just ends up being. I mean, it's not. There's nothing exciting about how he wrestles. There's nothing. It's like a poor imitation of wrestling like a traditional heel. It's not exciting. It did not accentuate Garcia's unique talents very well. Given how good of a grappler he is. He's a really great chain wrestler. So yeah, I just didn't like the match. I was happy with the outcome in that, when I did my review this week for Dynamite, I gave it 2.5 stars because of the outcome. I was really happy with Garcia winning the title. Um, but yeah, I mean, when Perry was in charge of the match was terrible. It only was when Garcia was able to kind of take control of things, it became interesting. So, but I'm glad that he doesn't have the TNT title anymore. That being Jack Perry, because Jack Perry was really not a good champion. I mean, let's not mince words. I think both of us can agree he really ruined the TNT championship, didn't he?
Oh yeah, yeah. It didn't feel like it was important at all. It just, because I mean, you look at a guy like Jack Perry, and I'm just like, how is he going to be able to beat hardly anybody?
Yeah,
I mean, and they kind of built up the TNT Championship to be, you know, I don't know, I would say the second most important title in the company,
yeah,
behind obviously the AEW World Championship. And it felt like when people won that title, it was important.
yeah,
And when he won it, it just didn't feel like it was important at all.
yeah,
He did the whole torn up looking title look, and obviously him just not being that great himself just felt like it dragged it down. Um, so yeah, I definitely think his title reign was not good. It hurt the title credibility of the championship more than it helped it.
yeah.
And hopefully now that he doesn't have it anymore, maybe now they can kind of get it back to being a little bit more higher level of importance. But yeah, his title reign was definitely not good, not at all.
Yeah, I mean, the TNT title, the way to delineate it from the other titles was it has that TNT Open Challenge clause, and if you don't take advantage of that, then it's really just hardware, and it's just as meaningless or meaningful as the ability that the person wearing it can bestow upon it, if that makes any sense. And so when you have a guy who's, we've talked about it before, and probably not in depth as much as we should, because I think it's indicative of a bigger problem with AEW is that you have a guy who's a heel because of this um, implosion he has with CM Punk and the fallout that caused it, particularly Punk being fired. And he starts going by the scapegoat, and they show the video backstage. And the problem is that the 500,000 people every week who watch AEW like Jack Perry, or they would have stopped watching, like a lot of other people did when CM Punk left. So he's a heel, but he's only a heel in insofar as much as that he alienated a segment of the fans that aren't watching anymore. So the people that are watching like him. So even if he does things that are, heelish, even if he tries to separate himself, to distance himself from that and become his own, villain in a way, the people still like him because they have this cultish, like I don't know how to explain it. It's like a cult. They want to hate
Yeah,
CM Punk so bad they want to like Jack Perry, and he's just not. I think you and I both agree he's not entertaining. doesn't have any charisma. He looks like you or I could kick his ass. He he's really good at wrestling a certain style, but he's not wrestling that style right now because it's the style of babyface. He's a good underdog babyface. He's not a good heel.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also it's going back to the scapegoat thing. It's like, how long are you going to keep that going? I
Yep.
mean, that's not you're not going to get a payoff with that with Punk because he's not there anymore. You're I mean, how long are you going to keep referring back to that?
Yeah.
You like they showed the backstage footage, and outside of the like you said, the 500,000, 600,000 or so people that watch every week, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to bring any interest to your show. So why are you going to keep that around with this gimmick that refers back to an incident that doesn't make your company look very good? Um, so yeah, I don't understand what they're trying to do with him with the whole scapegoat thing. Like they need to just squash that and move on to something else. Like have him, whether that's him be a babyface again or whatever. But what they're doing with him right now just is not. It's not working. Not at all.
Yeah, well, hopefully he goes away for a little while and they repackage him some way because he's not Continental Classic right now, which means he really doesn't need to be figured in anymore for the next month or so. So,
Yeah,
hopefully he goes away and comes back, and he'll probably return at Wrestle Dynasty because he does have that existing relationship with New Japan. So,
yeah.
um, anyways, not to belabor point, what was your favorite match of the night?
Favorite match. I probably would say Osprey and Garcia, or I'm sorry, Osprey and Kyle Fletcher.
Oh yeah, yeah, of course.
Osprey and Kyle Fletcher. Obviously it was a good, really good match. It was a crazy match. A lot of stuff going on. Obviously, there's certain things that go on in Osprey matches that I don't like. I like that moves that look like they would kill somebody, getting a 2 count. Just kind of a little pet peeve of mine. But overall, it was a good match. Obviously, Fletcher getting the win was pretty big, um, for Osprey to put him over like that. Um, I thought was pretty cool. I thought that was a good way to kind of build up Fletcher as being a big name and trying to push him towards that main event status.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I say that was probably my favorite. That one, and then the Statlander and Mercedes Monet match. I actually enjoyed that. Thought it was a good match. Obviously, I'm a big fan of Statlanders, and even though Mercedes Monet hasn't really impressed me all that much since she's been in AEW, it was one of her better matches, I thought.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of good back and forth action. Um, and yeah, so yeah, I thought that those were two of my favorite ones on the show.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Mercedes Monet versus Chris Statlander for the TBS Women's Championship I don't want to belabor the point. I think it was genuinely a great match. One of the better non-stipulation women's matches I've ever seen in AEW. Certainly Mercedes Monet's best match in AEW so far. It was really fantastic. Chris Statlander just continues to prove that she's a really great performer in the ring. She's so good, so great at selling, so strong, so agile despite her size. She's really amazing. Mercedes Monet is a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer, and pretty much in WWE for sure. But she's proven how good she is in the ring time after time. It's been a little clunky in AEW, but I don't think a lot of that's necessarily just her in ring. I think a lot of that is magnified by how strange her character is and how hard it is to fit in the AEW landscape. But that's not really just in terms of this match. The match was great, and then the Fletcher versus Osprey match was was also great. Yeah, I think it was equally as good. It's hard for me to say that one match is better than the other, but I think you go back to that match they had on Dynamite in I guess it was either late March or early April. After that match he had it with Takeshi at Revolution. Osprey Fletcher had a really great match on Dynamite. I think Dave Meltzer gave it 5 stars, and it was awesome. But it just demonstrates the difference between Fletcher then and now, how how much more reserved he is, how well he works as a heel, how he's adapted his style to that format and to the character he's portraying right now. He just looks so imposing, and I guess that has a lot to do with Osprey. Osprey's so good at selling, so good at making guys look dangerous. That was just a great match. Really for both of them. I mean, for Osprey to be so giving, so generous, for Fletcher, I think it was genuinely a star-making performance. I don't know how you didn't have him go from there to wrestling on Wednesday night, and I don't understand why you wouldn't nail that point home and have him go on Dynamite and dominate. But I'm not booking the show, so anyways, he's gonna be in Collision to Saturday 4 o'clock. So yeah, good for him. But um, anyways, that was a great match.
Yeah. One other thing I did want to say though, that I thought was kind of weird though was the champagne celebration
Yeah,
with Mariah May and Mina Shirakawa. The fact that you don't have the AEW Women's World Champion wrestling on a pay per view, I think is pretty crazy.
yeah,
Like, and I mean the whole thing with they go out there for the champagne thing, and she then tries to hit her from behind, and catches her, and then spears her off the stage. Like it was all just kind of really weirdly done.
yeah,
Um, like I get you're trying to, you know, I guess she's gonna feud with Mina now, or how maybe short, maybe long, maybe it's just a little small thing till they have her face Tony Storm again.
yeah,
Um, but the fact that you don't have any like there all the women that are in AEW, and there's nobody that you can put Mariah May with on a pay per view.
yeah,
I'm not saying that she has to lose the title, but somebody who could get a world title shot, could give them some credence as, oh, they're able to compete against the women's world champion. Um, I thought was pretty disappointing. Like, you only have the TBS championship up for grabs, but the main women's title you don't have on the show. It's just it's pretty crazy that you couldn't find somebody to go to compete against her.
yeah. This is um this is the second pay per view she's been absent from since she won the title. She wasn't at All Out. She wrestled at
Yeah.
Wrestle Dream, and then she missed this show in terms of having a match. Um, the champagne cell. I understand, in general, that sometimes it's good to have a segment that isn't a match to kind of give a little pad between the matches, but that segment shouldn't be involving your women's world champion. And it's not looking any better because she's not. It's already announced she's wrestling Mina Shirakawa at Winter is Coming, which means she probably won't be at World's End. Could be wrong, but it means she probably won't be at World's End defending that title. And she had a great program with Anna Jay, and the blow off was on Collision. And I understand you need to get people to watch Collision, but that feud made Anna Jay look 10 times better, look 10 times more important because Mariah May is that gifted, that good on the microphone and in the ring and as a champion. And you didn't have the blow off on a pay per view or even on Dynamite. You had it on Collision, which, you're right. There's no excuse for it. It's just not, it doesn't make you look like you care about the women's division. It doesn't make you look like you care about Mariah May or the women's world championship. It doesn't make you look like a good booker. So yeah. Um, anything else about before we get to the ending of the show, anything else that stuck out to you about the show?
Well, I just wanted to piggyback off your point about Mariah May and the women's division is that Anna Jay had that great program with her, and then she wrestled on the pre-show.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have this whole thing with Anna Jay and Mariah May, the women's world champion, and right after that, she's wrestling on the pre-show against Deonna Purrazzo, who's another great women's wrestler who
Yeah.
they have done nothing with.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you have all these women you could put up with Mariah May, and you don't use them.
Yeah.
So it just, yeah, like the fact that they did all that with Anna Jay, and obviously she's well liked, and she's obviously gotten a lot better in ring wise because she's wrestled so much. And you reward all that hard work with Mariah May with having her on the pre-show was just completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as anything else on the show, I don't think there was too much else. I mean, I would say it was. I enjoyed the Swerve Strickland Bobby Lashley match. Um, because obviously it was cool seeing Bobby in the ring again. His first pay-per-view match against Swerve. Um, yeah, I think Lashley getting the win was awesome.
Mhm.
Because it's definitely needed, and they've definitely done a good job of making the Hurt Syndicate look like they're just gonna run through AEW. Like they have that gravitas of Bobby. That's obviously Bobby Lashley has that aura of just being a guy who could just destroy anybody. But even Shelton Benjamin, they've made Shelton Benjamin look like a main eventer.
Yeah.
That he could go up and he could be anybody. Like they made it look like he could be world champion.
Yep.
And that's just something that WWE never did with him. He was always relegated to the mid card. Um, so I think the way that they've built up the Hurt Syndicate has been awesome. Um, and yeah, I think it was great that Swerve, you know, put over Bobby Lashley.
Mhm.
Thought that was great. Um, but yeah, just wanted to throw that in there because that was important for that to happen to continue them building up the Hurt Syndicate. Um, but yeah, I think that's pretty much everything else that happened besides obviously the main event.
Uh, so main event, John Moxley defeats Orange Cassidy. We expected this. I enjoyed the match a lot. I just in general, I think Cassidy's one of Moxley's better opponents. I think he accentuates Moxley well. He uh, brings out the best in John Moxley, and I think it was a good match. I'm eager to hear your thoughts, in more granular detail. But um, after the show, Hangman Page uh, runs down the aisle with a chair, hobbles down the aisle with a chair, gives Wheeler Yuta a stiff shot. I mean, just it looked like he really hit him with that chair pretty hard. Lays Wheeler Yuta out, goes after Moxley. Christian Cage gets in the ring. He's going to cash in his contract on Moxley. Then Jay White interrupts everything, gives Hangman Page the sling blade, steals the contract. Christian runs away. The Death Riders try to escape in their Dodge Ram, and then Darby Allin crashes into their parked Dodge Ram before they can get into it. Well, he had to be going at least 40 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, he was going fast.
Going
I,
pretty fast. Um, you never see him get out of the car like in one single camera shot, but it very clearly was him driving because he got out. He was pretty screwed up. He was definitely hurt.
yeah,
The Death Riders steal a car and they run away. Don't know how they keep committing crimes and they just show back up on the wrestling show. But anyways, yeah, and then Darby Allin gets on top of the Dodge Ram. He's stumbling to get up on the hood of the car because he's just was in a car accident, bleeding. His leg clearly hurts.
yeah.
He smashes in the glass with his skateboard. Says he's going to kill John Moxley. What did you think about the ending of this show?
Um, it was definitely crazy.
Hmm.
Um, Darby Allen, uh, I don't know if he'll actually live long enough to potentially dethrone John Moxley at this point because, yeah, like it seems like he's bound and determined to kill himself.
Yeah.
Um, but that was definitely crazy. It, it was a lot going on with obviously Hangman coming out and uh, you know them teasing Christian cashing in the title shot
Hmm.
and winning, Jay White getting involved. Uh, it was a little, I don't know, it was a little clunky because I didn't really understand why they were getting involved.
Hmm.
Um, So that part I thought was a little unclear. Um, then Willow coming in and running off Marina Shafir
Got that part.
was was it was cool. I thought it would have made a little more sense if Statlander did it, but I guess Willow also works. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious that they are, really pushing the fact that Darby is kind of going to probably be the guy to win the title. Is kind of what I took away from it. Cassidy obviously he got his ass beat in this match. I mean, he got bloodied up. Um, and yeah, it was a lot going on.
Yeah.
Kind of a chaotic thing. It kind of seemed like they were kind of taking something from the WrestleMania 40 main event when everybody was running in, getting involved, preventing other people from getting involved. It kind of seemed like they took a little bit from that,
Hmm.
um, which I will say I think I would have waited to do that until you actually switch the title,
Yeah.
because I think if you're going to do that, it makes more sense, especially if you're kind of going with the Death Riders are trying to destroy AEW, remake AEW, whatever you want to go with. It would have made more sense for them to have this whole, well, all these AEW wrestlers are getting involved, trying to, you know, have this, whoever is wrestling for the title win the title, win it back for AEW to take it away from the Death Riders. It would have made more sense if they had done that when an actual title change, like WrestleMania 40, when Cody finally dethroned Roman Reigns and ended the Bloodline's reign of terror. It would have made more sense to do it then. So I think they kind of jumped the gun a little bit with that. Um, Not saying you can't do it again, you
Yeah.
know, um, but I think it would hold a little more weight if you had done that later on. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was okay. Uh, the match itself, Moxley, I'm obviously not the biggest fan of. I know you and I have said that ad nauseum on this show that neither of us really care for him. Cassidy, I don't know your feelings on him, but I'm not that high on Orange Cassidy. He's okay. I think some of the stuff he does is goofy. The little light kicks and stuff like that. It kind of bugs me when he does that. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. It was okay for a. I don't know if I would have had main event the show, even though obviously it's the world title match. I get it, but
Yeah.
um, it was what it was. The Darby Allin thing was the most notable part of it for me.
I agree with you. It was a little clunky, a little clumsy. Having they beat Cassidy, the Death Riders come out, they start pouring some kind of cleaning solution or
Oh,
chemicals
I forgot about that.
Cassidy's head, his open wound. He's supposed to be burning him or something, and then
Yeah,
all these run-ins happen. Like I forgot the Willow Nightingale coming out and stopping Marina Shafir. But I guess even though it was clunky and clumsy, it did introduce the the parties that really matter for the next month or so of this feud, and that's Jay White, Hangman Page, Christian Cage. I don't know if this will be a fatal four-way match at World's End for the title. It wouldn't really make sense in terms of Christian Cage. Why would he cash it in and that kind of stuff? I mean, I guess it means he can pin someone other than John, but anyways, I don't know if that really makes a lot of sense for Christian. But it looks like it's going to be some variation of Moxley versus Hangman versus Jay White, um, which I'm fine with. On Dynamite on Wednesday, Darby Allin got his ass beat by Brody King. It clearly looks like they're trying to tell a story where the damage is starting to accumulate and he's not healthy. He didn't look healthy in the match. He was hobbling around at times. He clearly looks like that car crash hurt him, which that's natural, right?
yeah, yeah,
People getting car crashes would not go out and compete in a combat sport then 2 or 3 days later. So anyways,
yeah, yeah. That's the one thing I don't understand with Darby. It's like I like Darby a lot.
yeah,
I like you know the character he has. I like he has that connection with the fans. But I mean, he just keeps doing all this just dumb stuff.
yeah,
And I'm like, dude, you are going to get hurt badly,
Yeah.
which is going to prevent you from being able to, you know, win the title. It seems like,
Yeah.
I mean, you do something like that where, yeah, you obviously get hurt. You're obviously injured from that car crash, which is anybody could have told you that you were going to get hurt doing that.
Yeah.
Which I get that your whole thing is you're a daredevil, but you have to at least make sure that you are healthy and able to compete, because nobody wants to watch a match where you're so injured you can't do what you're supposed to do,
Yeah.
and I just think, I mean, he keeps doing this type of stuff, and it's just like, how can you put the title on him? I mean, I would love to see him win the title. I think it would be a great moment, but he keeps doing this type of thing, and it's just like, that's going to catch up with you eventually.
Yeah.
It's going to prevent you from being able to do, what you need to do. It's going to it prevents the company from being able to put you in that position. If you keep doing this type of stuff, and it's just, I mean, somebody eventually's got to tell him, look, man, you've got to calm down a little bit.
I wonder if the story is that he's going to keep getting so hurt that he has to get put on the shelf for a while, and then Moxley will defend the title against some other people, and then eventually he'll come back. I wonder if that's what they're going for, where people know now that he's the intended choice to take the title, and so they want to obfuscate it. They want to, make it not seem so obvious. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I mean, I can't imagine that at the end of the Continental Classic he'll be better than when he entered it, because that just wouldn't make any sense. It's a round robin tournament. He's got to wrestle at least 5 matches. Um, I don't know. To me, it doesn't seem like it would make sense for him to, by the end of December, be better off than he was at the end of November, where he was in a car crash. I don't know. Anyways, yeah. Well, let's. We talked about our thoughts on Full Gear. Yesterday, the star ratings came out for Full Gear, courtesy of Dave Meltzer. We haven't really talked a lot about Dave Meltzer on this show or the star ratings, maybe in passing once or twice, but Jordan and I, well, I'll speak for myself. In the past, I've often found that I tend to agree with Dave Meltzer in general about his thoughts on matches. Not always, not even most of the time, but more often than not, I agree with him. And recently, in the last 2 years, really, the star ratings have just become so inflated. Um, it seems like every month the ratings get higher and higher. On average, and for the big matches. And not just in AEW and WWE too. There are more 5-star matches. There have been more 5-star matches in the last 4 years than there probably has been for the WWE in 20 years. TNA had one 5-star match this year. They only had one in the company's history, I think. Um, and then you look at the star ratings for this show, and it's telling, because I feel like some of these matches would not have been rated this high maybe 5 years ago. Now, how much of that has to do with AEW, or just he's not as judicious with these? I don't know, because I don't think he has a great relationship with AEW anymore. From what I understand, it sounds like Tony Khan kind of thinks he's a nuisance. So I don't want to say it's all biased towards AEW, but anyways, we'll get into it. I'll let you read off the ratings, and we can go from there.
All right. So for the main card, I don't think we're going to talk about 0 Hour. For the main card, the AEW World Tag Team Title match, which was Private Party, the champions, versus the Outrunners, the Acclaimed, and the Kings of the Black Throne, was 2.25 stars. Um, MJF versus Roderick Strong was 3 stars. Mercedes Moné versus Chris Statlander for the TBS title was 4.5 stars. Jay White versus Hangman Page was 4.25 stars. Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay was 5.25 stars. Jack Perry versus Daniel Garcia for the TNT title was 3.75. Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet for the international title was 4.25 stars. Bobby Lashley versus Swerve Strickland was 3.75 stars, and Moxley versus Cassidy for the world title was 4 stars.
Now, listen, we could go down. I mean, we could say, yeah, Takeshita versus Ricochet was not a better match than Lashley versus Strickland. I mean, we could kind of compare and contrast, but some of the ratings are just so high. Takeshita versus Ricochet, 4.25. I'd like to see some matches from the early 2000s or the 90s that got 4.25 and compare them because I just think it's going to be night and day. You know, um,
But yeah, I
Mercedes.
think
I'm sorry.
no, I just think it's you look at the amount of matches that he rates 4 stars and above, and it's like not every single match can be a 4 star match. Because then it devalues the ones that are actually worthy of a high rating.
Yeah,
Like you said, like Takeshita versus Ricochet was not a 4 star match. I mean Daniel Garcia Jack Perry was almost a 4 star match. That was a terrible match, like we talked about earlier. And I mean obviously the thing with Osprey is every match is a 5 star match according to Dave Meltzer.
yeah,
And I'm not saying Will Osprey is a really good wrestler. He's one of the best in the business today. But every one of his matches are 5 star matches. That just it devalues what a 5 star match really is. So I mean that's just the biggest issue is just the amount of matches that he rates so highly. And it's just like there have to be matches that are not that good. It's going to happen. There's going to be matches that are not worthy of 4 stars. And it seems like he's just afraid to rate a lot of these competitors in AEW lower than 4 stars. And it's just wild.
I mean, he gave, here's just kind of the ultimate barometer. He gave Rock versus Stone Cold at WrestleMania 17 4.5 stars. And Takeshita versus Ricochet is 4.25. Jay
Yeah.
White versus Hangman has 4.25. I mean, come on.
Or
That's,
Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25. That was that was one of the best matches of all time that I know that I've ever seen.
right.
And I don't think that was a 5 star match.
No, it
And
wasn't. Let me find
yeah,
out.
that would have been easily worthy of a 5 star rating for me. But he didn't give that one a 5 star match. But he gives Osprey and Kyle Fletcher 5.25.
5.25. Yeah. Yeah. Michael
So
versus Undertaker at WrestleMania 25 is 4.75.
yeah, 4.75. So not enough to be 5 stars. And then obviously it's been mentioned, you know, every time anybody's talked about star ratings that Kurt Angle doesn't have a 5 star match,
Yeah.
which is one of the most egregious things that I've ever heard. And I know Dave Meltzer has gotten tons and tons of flack for it, rightfully so. But yeah, it just it's what happens when you're all over the place with these ratings, and there's no rhyme or reason to any of it.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, I'm not necessarily saying that, you know, I don't know. I'm not necessarily saying that Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels needs to be a 5 star match. It's okay if it's 4.75 because five should denote some level of perfection, I guess. But if you have that 4.75, then I'm sorry, but Mercedes Monet versus Statlander is not 4.5 stars.
Yeah,
Just
in
you,
comparison, yeah,
yeah, you're just inflating this so high, it's insane. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, particularly like you touched on, Fletcher versus Osprey, 5.25 stars. This is Osprey's 11th match this year where he's had 5 or higher stars. Um, he's had as high as 6 and 6.5 star matches this year.
yeah.
Um, which okay, you break the scale. Something that you thought was perfect has been improved upon, but he's had how many matches now above 5 stars? Let's see. Uh,
This will 11 this year, 44 overall.
he's at yeah. So he's at one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. He's had 8 matches above 5 stars this year. Kurt Angle never had one 5 star match. It's just it's
Yeah.
insane. I don't know. Dave Meltzer's ratings are just I mean, and like I said, it hurts because I used to often agree with him. I used to, if he thought a match was good, most of the time I thought it was good.
Yeah.
But it's just gotten to a point where his ratings are so inflated, it's insane. I don't know. And Osprey has had an incredible year. A lot of those 5 star matches were great matches, but they weren't 5 star matches, let alone
Yeah.
5.5 or 5.25 or whatever, 6 stars, whatever they were.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm interested to see what his ratings are going to be for Survivor Series when it's all said and done. I mean, even the CM Punk Drew McIntyre matches, he gave it 5 stars. I wouldn't call that a 5 star match personally. I mean, it was a good match, very good match, great match, but it wasn't a 5 star match.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's just relegated to one company necessarily. Although
No.
he tends to like AEW's product a lot, but
No.
everything across the board, it's inflated. I mean, I think between 2000 and 2020, WWE only had like 2 or 3 5 star matches.
Yeah.
And AEW's had I don't know, I don't even know how many. I mean,
Yeah.
probably 50 or more. I mean,
Mhm. Yeah. People can have a good match, and it doesn't have to be 5 stars.
yeah,
It doesn't even have to be 4 stars. I mean, you can have an okay match. Like it's not a bad thing to rate something like 3.5 stars or whatever.
absolutely not. No, I mean, if 3 is a good match, if 4 is a great match, I mean that, yeah, 4 stars is great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, AEW already has 36 5 star or better matches. WWE in its entire 60 plus year history has 20. I don't know. Anyways, well, we'll move on. Something that's really stuck out to us this week. Something I wanted to talk about. I could probably talk about this for several hours. Is the 30 best pro wrestlers under 30 list that ESPN does. This has become an annual thing for them. Like I said earlier, it kind of gauges the state of the professional wrestling business, the future, ranks some of the rising stars. 30 is I mean, obviously it's a healthy cutoff, but it's a little arbitrary because it's not most wrestlers don't reach their prime until they're in their mid 30s. So 30 maybe a little bit premature in terms of cutting off when a wrestler's young still, because like I consider Hangman Page young still, and he's in his early 30s.
Yeah.
I don't think he's exactly his prime yet. So anyways, but 30 under 30. Oh, Jordan, I'll let you take this, man. Give us a little, maybe the top 10 of the list, and then after that, below 10, we'll name some people worth mentioning.
All right. So we'll go with the top 10. Um, I'll go from 10 to 1. So 10, Shota Umino
Hmm.
from New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's 27. Um, Daniel Garcia, number 9 is Daniel Garcia, obviously AEW. We just talked about him, 26 years old. Um, Kyle Fletcher, 25 in AEW. Um, number 7 is Jack Perry, 27 AEW. 6 is Takeshita, 29 years old, AEW. Um, number 5 is Mariah May, 26 years old, AEW. Number 4, Rhea Ripley, 28 with WWE. Number 3 is Tony Storm, 29 years old in AEW. MJF is number 2. He's 28 in AEW. And number 1 in WWE at 27 years old is Dirty Dominik Mysterio. So yeah, Dominik at number 1 is pretty crazy when you think about all the names that just listed on here. And also too, I wanted to make mention. Um, number 11 is Braun Breaker, who is obviously WWE 27, which for me personally, I thought was insane. I don't know how you could rank him outside of the top 10. I don't know how the hell you could have, I mean, you know, Daniel Garcia, Jack Perry above him. Um, Even Takeshita. I mean, I don't know how you could have those guys above Braun Breaker. He's a future main eventer in WWE. He's the current Intercontinental Champion. Um, just pretty crazy to me that he's at number 11. But yeah, just so that that's the top 10. Um, what are your thoughts on Dominik Mysterio out of all the wrestlers under 30 years old being number one on the list?
Um, it it's hard to convince me that Dominic Mysterio is better than people on this list who are either current or former world champions. For him to be higher than Rhea Ripley, Mariah May, Tony Storm, Maxwell Jacob Friedman is just ridiculous. Him being higher than Braun Breaker, him being number one. Okay, him being number one is a joke. I'll just let me just say that. Okay, be one thing if he were not number one and he was still higher than some of these people. He shouldn't be higher than Braun Breaker. Is he a better wrestler than Braun Breaker? No. He's been thrust into a really interesting position because he had that feud with his father and he's in Judgment Day. He's dating the top women's wrestlers in WWE right now. He was with Rhea Ripley. Now he's with Liv Morgan. Is he better than Liv Morgan? No. Was he better than Rhea Ripley? No.
Yeah,
He's an accessory to their storyline.
yeah,
Um, there's no aspect of professional wrestling that Dominic Mysterio is better at than MJF.
yeah,
He's not a better wrestler. He's not a better talker. He doesn't look better. I don't know I don't know how you could even convince yourself that he's higher on the list than MJF. Is he in a more high profile position? Yeah, because he's at the bigger company,
yeah,
at the center of the biggest women's feud in the company. Um, but how much of that has to do with him versus Rhea Ripley, who's always been successful, or Liv Morgan, who's always been a fan favorite? I don't understand that at all.
yeah. Let me, because I was going to ask, because I know we kind of touched on it a little bit last week when we did the top, or no, I believe it was the week before we did the top superstars
Mhm.
of 2024. We kind of touched on it a little bit about how much impact does it have when you are a main attraction in the biggest company in the world and you're constantly involved in the top storylines. How much effect does that have in padding your resume, so to speak, and putting you over people like MJF or Tony Storm or uh, anybody else who's not in the WWE. When AEW is obviously it's a smaller company, they don't have nearly as many viewers. They're not selling out arenas like WWE is right now. How much effect does that have on inflating the perception around somebody like Dominic Mysterio?
Well, you have Tony Storm above Rhea Ripley. I mean,
Yeah,
that throws that out of the water. I don't.
that is a crazy thing to have her above Rhea.
Well, and listen, I think there's an argument there that Tony Storm's better than Rhea Ripley. She's a better
Yeah,
wrestler.
yeah,
She's definitely better on the mic. Rhea Ripley can't cut a promo to save her life.
yeah,
I mean, listen, Jordan's a very big Rhea Ripley fan, so I don't want to hurt his feelings here. But Rhea Ripley, very mediocre. Like not good on the microphone, not that great in the ring. Yeah, physically she's dominant. She has she definitely stands out on camera, but she's not. I mean, in terms of talent, no, I don't think she's as talented as Tony Storm. I don't
No,
think that at all. Tony Storm's illustrated her ability to portray a wide spectrum of characters. She's been successful in 3 different continents. I think she's better than Rhea Ripley right now, but I don't understand how you can put Dominik above MJF, and the reason is because he's at the center line of one of the biggest stories in the biggest company. I'm sorry, but that would change this list entirely. If I'm looking at this list and I got to pick 30 people to, the 30 best under 30, I'm going to pick the guy who I would want to build my company around, and that's MJF. It wouldn't be Dominik. Dominik wouldn't even be in my top 10 probably.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, and last year MJF was number one,
yeah,
and Dominic was number 5.
I just don't. I mean, you look at Mariah May. She wasn't on this list last year because she was in Stardom, and they probably the guy that wrote this or the committee that wrote this list and put it together probably doesn't know a lot about what's going on in Stardom.
Yeah,
I don't admittedly either know that much about what's going on in Stardom, but Utami Hayashishita's like 25 on this list. She's a former world champion, much better than a lot of wrestlers on this list, including guys like Jack Perry or Roxanne Perez at 20 is crazy.
yeah,
I don't how she's a phenomenal wrestler, has
yeah,
become a great character on NXT, leading that women's division, and has the back catalog. She was a Ring of Honor World Champion before she was in WWE.
yeah.
Tiffany Stratton at 18, I feel like she needs to be higher. Um, like you said, Braun Breaker at 11, she should be higher.
He
Yeah, he should be higher. Yeah, I mean,
And another thing too with Braun Breaker is last year on this same list he was number 6, so he fell on this list when you know he's well, one he's a 2-time Intercontinental Champion now. He's wrestled on was it 2 or 3 pay-per-views, I think. Yeah, I
mm,
think 2 or 3 pay-per-views he's been on. So, all the things that he's done and he fell on this list is crazy.
uh, you know, you have Shota Umino at 10 on this list, who is going to main event Wrestle Kingdom, I guess.
Yeah.
And then he's going to possibly main event Wrestle Dynasty. He's going to be working with Moxley. He's going to be working with Zack Sabre Jr. at Wrestle Kingdom. So he's going to be in the main event of the biggest show. I understand all that, but Shota Umino is not, for New Japan fans, they'll know what I'm talking about. He's not beloved right now. He's actually kind of, they hate him. He has go away heat because his character changed for the worse and he's being shoved down people's throats. And he's not the face of a brand. Kaito Kiyomiya is the face of his brand in Japan at Pro Wrestling Noah. He's their world champion right now and is in his third reign as world champion.
Yeah.
Konosuke Takeshita has huge appeal in Japan. I mean, I think I speak for all New Japan fans when I say they really desperately wish that guy was in New Japan right now. And he's in AW and he's got a lot of credibility as the international champion right now, but I wouldn't put him above Kaito Kiyomiya in terms of, I mean, yeah, he's a mid carder in America, but in Japan, Kaito Kiyomiya is probably the best domestic guy in Japan right now. There's a lot of things I just don't understand about this list. Seems a little, I mean, it's hard to compare guys in Japan to American wrestlers. Really, really hard because in their market, yeah, I mean, in Kaito Kiyomiya's market, he's a world champion. How do you put him at 12? He's as good as you can get in pro wrestling Noah. I don't, if he went to New Japan, he'd be a champion. So I don't understand that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, by and large, my problem, Dominik Mysterio number one is insane. That's crazy. I don't, I, there's, we used to joke about Dominik, about how he had buggy whipped arms and
Yeah.
he needed to put on weight and he wasn't that great in the ring. I mean, he's not bad in the ring. I'm not saying that he's
No.
a scrub, but he's not, you know, if you were to list the top 15 men's wrestlers in WWE, I don't think he would make the list.
No.
And he definitely is not better than Rhea Ripley right now, and that's absurd.
Yeah.
That's me saying everything I just said about Rhea. I mean, that's absurd to have him above Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy that they would like, and like we said, we go through this list and there's just so much randomness going on with who's ranked where. Uh, like you have Tony Storm over Rhea, like we talked about, but then you have MJF under Dominik Mysterio, and you have Braun Breaker number 11 outside the top 10, and you have guys like Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia in the top 10, and it's just crazy. I don't understand the logic behind why they put people where they did, and yeah, it's all over the place. I can't even try to understand what logic they use to make this list, but yeah, it's just garbage.
Yeah, they have Austin Theory at 15. He was 3 last year.
Yeah,
I mean, I understand he's not as high on the card as he was a year ago, but that doesn't mean his talent is diminished.
yeah,
He's not any worse of a wrestler. He just is not in as featured of a spot, which
yeah, yeah.
not shocking, but I mean, is Dominic Mysterio more talented than Austin Theory? I don't know. Austin Theory is a prodigy if there ever were one, and he's only 27.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know. It's just there's a lot of weird choices on this list. I mean, I kind of think, you almost have to, if you're comparing young guys, you almost have to separate the ranking by continents almost because it's so hard to compare a top Japanese wrestler to a top or a top man. El Hijo del Vikingo is 13 on this list, and he was the AAA Mega Champion for like over 2 years or something like that.
Yeah.
He's hurt right now, but like in terms of in the Mexican market, there are not many guys bigger than Vikingo, and he's 13 on this list. I don't, that doesn't make much sense to me. But, anyways, I thought it was interesting, and I like these lists because, like I said, you get to take the temperature in the room and see who are the top guys in wrestling, who are the top young guys in wrestling right now. How bright is the future of wrestling? And it certainly is bright. I mean, I look at this list. I love how many women are on this list.
Mm.
The future of women's wrestling is bright,
Yeah.
so bright. I mean, there are so many great young women's wrestlers in the business right now, who for the next 5 to 10 years are going to dominate their respective companies. But a lot of the choices for the men, like Jack Perry at 7, it's just ridiculous. That
Yeah.
is so ridiculous. Uh, I haven't found Jack Perry interesting since he was in the Jurassic Express. I didn't like his feud with Christian Cage. I didn't like his feud with Hook. I definitely not liked his stuff with the Elite. I don't care for his stuff in New Japan. I have not liked him since he left the Jurassic Express. I don't know why they broke up that tag team. It was the only thing that made him remotely interesting to me.
Yeah.
And he's not a good wrestler as a heel. He needs to reevaluate his life decisions and probably make amends with people he's disrespected. But anyways,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Here's a good question: who's someone that fell out of the top 5, maybe barring Braun Breaker, because I know how you feel about Braun,
Yeah.
that you think will be in the top 5 next year? Are you willing to make any bold predictions?
Um, Someone that fell out of the top 5.
Yes.
Um, I don't even fell out of the top 5. Well, I think I think Braun was the only one.
Well, I mean, who's someone who didn't make the top 5 this year who you think will make it?
Oh, okay. Um, I mean, I think depending on how it goes, I think Kyle Fletcher. could be somebody. It seems like they really want to push him as a top star there. So depending on how that goes, he might be one to jump up the list next year. Obviously Braun. I mean, I would want to say possibly Tiffany Stratton too. I mean, she's obviously she's going to win the women's title. Um, they've been really pushing that, so she's going to hold the title. I'm sure she's probably going to hold it for quite a while. Um, she's got the look that WWE likes. She's got the character. She's popular. So I think she very easily could jump up there. I mean, I'd like to say Austin Theory, but it just doesn't seem like they really see a future in him right now. He's been kind of just off in the ether.
Yeah.
He really hasn't done anything. He hasn't even really been anywhere near the world title picture. Um, I mean, obviously, you know, they could change that very easily if they wanted to. Um, but it just seems like right now he's not in their future plans. So I hesitate to say him, but right now I probably would say Tiffany Stratton and Kyle Fletcher are probably the two, along with Braun Breaker, obviously. But besides Braun Breaker, those two would be the ones I would say have the best chance to leap up into the top five.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I guess the only other person I'm throwing there is maybe Roxanne Perez. Jane Hayter 27 on this list is just crazy. Just crazy. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Yeah, it probably Tiffany Stratton and Kyle Fletcher. I think those are two great choices for sure.
well then also if that's going to happen, then who would you say is going to fall out of the top five?
Um
Like who would have the best chance to fall out of the top five if you're going to have people going into it?
uh that's a good question. Uh I did I don't think Mariah May will be in the top 5 again next year, and, I mean, I'd like to say Dominik Mysterio, but I don't know about that. Um, I don't know, I mean, I guess if I were making this list, it'd be very different, but, yeah, I mean, I d probably it's tough. Yeah,
I mean, because
probably Mariah May.
yeah, because I mean, obviously Tony Storm's going to fall out of it because she'll be 30 next year, so
Oh, yeah, oh,
she
true, true.
won't qualify. But yeah, I mean, Mariah May probably won't be. I mean, it's kind of I don't know. I would say it's possible Rhea might fall out of the top five, but like she'll still be in the top 10. But I mean, I could see her kind of falling out of the top five because I don't know who she's going to be involved with in a program with at any point. She's just been kind of there. I mean, if feuding with Liv, obviously, but that's not. I mean, that's not going to go on for. I can't imagine that much longer.
Well, I mean, is there what's the probability she wins the title back at WrestleMania?
Oh, I'm sure she's going to win it back. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, by the time they do
so
this again, she might be a world champion still.
yeah, I mean, it's possible, and uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I mean, I don't. I would say Dominik, but I don't. I don't. There's no reason for him to be number ones. I don't see why they would drop him. I mean, he didn't do anything to earn being number one anyway. So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it's a crazy list. It's just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little out there, for sure. Um, okay. I guess last on the docket, some news this week. A lot of news, honestly. It's been a pretty busy week for wrestling news. But I'll let you take it away, Jordan. Fill me on what's been going on. What do you think? And
All right. We've had a few individual wrestler things kind of happen. The first one, not in chronological order, but Ray Phoenix had some news with him. It was rumored for quite a while that him and Penta were going to go to WWE when their contracts expired. Um, And just recently this week, it was reported by a bunch of different news sites that Penta's contract is supposedly up next week. Uh, but Ray Phoenix's contract, they are adding AEW is adding injury time to it, so his contract will run well into next year, which prevents the Lucha Brothers both from going to WWE at the same time. And the reported reason for that was because AEW found out that they were leaving to go there. So, I guess they're saying that it was done out of spite almost, because it's also been reported that they don't really have any plans for Ray Phoenix right now, at least. So, they're just kind of keeping him hostage almost.
Hmm.
So that's caused a lot of stir in the IWC. A lot of people saying it's not fair. A lot of people saying that that's something that Vince would have done. As far as Tony Khan trying, has said for a long time he's not going to be that type of uh, you know owner in charge, person in charge of wrestling, and he just did that to Ray Phoenix. It sounds like, um, and obviously you had Ricky Starks, who he went on Chris Van Vliet podcast, and talked about a bunch of different things. And Chris basically straight up asked him, why have you not been on TV? And Ricky Starks was basically like, I have no idea. Almost, didn't have an answer, didn't really want to speculate why. He just said he doesn't know. Um, and he was supposed to be on GCW,
Yeah.
wrestle there, and they pulled him from it, which I think that was because of some comments that somebody else made who was a part of GCW.
Yeah.
Um, but it just kind of adds to the overall weird situation that Ricky Starks is in, where he's not injured, he can compete. They just haven't used him.
Yeah.
He hasn't been on television for, I think it's been like 8 or 9 months now.
Last appearance.
And yeah, so it's just no one really knows why he's not being used. A lot of people speculate he's going to go to WWE, because he's good friends with Cody. They actually brought up on the show, on the podcast, the picture of Ricky Starks backstage at, I think it was the Royal Rumble
Yeah.
when Cody won, and he said that people in AEW weren't happy about that coming out, and he's kind of like, what does it matter? I wasn't, I was just supporting a friend. So, just added a lot of craziness to that. And then one little small thing of note, not crazy, but Jade Cargill, obviously on SmackDown last week,
Hmm. Yeah.
she yeah, last week she got, you know thrown through a car windshield, and there was a lot of speculation, a lot of reports came out that said she was being written off TV because she was injured, and then there were reports that came out that said no, she's not. And then there was some that came out saying it was a backstage issue, and some said it wasn't, and now that no one really knows why. So not a huge thing, but just, it's been something that's been talked about a lot. So those are the three kind of big stories that have been, you know talked about a lot this week.
The Ray Phoenix and the Ricky Starks thing is really um, part of it. Almost feels like just a cultural shift in AEW that's been taking place. Um, just how much things have changed since the beginning. I think it's just another kind of reminder of that. When AEW started, the kind of the promise was that they weren't going to do bad business like WWE has done, really particularly under Vince McMahon's reign and towards the latter half of it. The kind of the business practices Vince would employ. That was kind of the promise, is that these guys are going to be taken care of like humans in a way that's ethical. And I don't really want to toss around, you know, I don't really want to debate the ethics of holding a guy to his, contractual obligations. If Ray Phoenix was hurt, you want to tackle on injury time, fine, but use him. Don't tackle on the injury time and then not use him. That's just ridiculous. There's what strategy is it helping? I mean, Do you think let's say his injury time is 8 months. Let's say it's five. Let's say it's 5 months. Let's just say that. Do you think in 5 months people are going to forget who Lucha Brothers were if they either knew or did? If they know them, then they're not going to forget. If they don't know them, then what does it matter? In 5 months, they're going to be introduced to them anyways.
Yeah.
So I don't understand that idea at all, especially if Pentagon Junior, Penta El Ceremieto, whatever you want to call him, if he's already his contract's up and all you're trying to do is prevent Ray Phoenix from going so they can book the Lucha Brothers. I don't really understand the point. If it's Ricky Starks, kind of. I mean, it's kind of an apples and oranges situation because he's healthy, he's still under contract. He went on Chris Van Fleet, and like you said, he didn't give a reason. He didn't even posit anything. It wasn't like he wanted to throw any assumptions out there. He said he thinks he knows why. He doesn't really want to say because he doesn't know for sure. Obviously, I'm sure he's afraid of the legal ramifications of probably spreading rumors
Right.
about why he's been absent. But Ricky Starks is the guy who you and I think I speak for both of us, but certainly for me, he's one of my favorite guys in AEW, one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. I think 10 years ago we dreamed of having a guy like him in wrestling who looks good, who wrestles well, and who talks well. We wanted more guys like that. Right now, we're kind of spoiled with so many of them, and he's one of them. And AEW unfortunately doesn't have a lot of them. They don't have a lot of guys who can cut a promo on anyone about anything in any situation, and they can make it convincing. Ricky Starks is one of those guys. I don't know how you can't find something meaningful for him to be doing right now. And especially when you have a guy like Jack Perry as the TNT champion, when the guy can't cut a promo, he's not that great in the ring. I mean, he's certainly not much better than Ricky Starks, if at all. Ricky Starks can be a heel, he can be a baby face, he has that versatility. I don't understand. I mean, like when Ricky was absent, when his absence began, it was in March. At that point, Roderick Strong was international champion. Tell me Roderick Strong's better champion than Ricky Starks? That's insane. I'm sorry, but it's crazy. His match last year with Bryan Danielson was awesome. His feud with CM Punk was heating up and was good. I just don't understand how, they put him in this tag team with Big Bill to be transitional champions for Sting and Darby Allin. Fine. All right. Now, you know, do something meaningful with Ricky. He's too talented not to. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean the whole idea of, and this is not exclusive to AEW, this is any company, WWE or otherwise, that if you have a wrestler that you are not going to use, what is the point of keeping them under contract and just not using them? It makes no sense. Whether, it's because of you don't have any idea what to do with them or there's some backstage issue, it I mean, you're afraid if you're Tony Khan and like you're afraid of Ray Phoenix going to WWE. I mean, what does it matter if you're not going to use him anyway? I mean, the WWE, whatever you think of them, is a bigger company than AEW, and it's probably always going to be.
Yeah.
Just because you have, uh, the Lucha Brothers and Ricky Starks, if they decide to go to WWE, what does that matter? How is it helping you to keep these guys, not have them on TV, have them sit at home, and pay them to not use them? It makes no sense. It's just a black cloud kind of hanging over you because now you have this situation where you have this guy who is very obviously not there, and people know he's not off TV because he's hurt. So why are you going to keep this bad press around you? Because it creates this situation where you have people saying, "Well, Tony Khan's being unfair to Ricky Starks and Ray Phoenix."
Yeah.
Whether it's true or not, I don't know. Maybe there's a specific reason he is or not. I don't know. But the fact that you know, and I get that you don't want to let every single person who wants out of their contract to go. But to just tack on injury time to be petty, if that's the reason why he did it,
Yeah.
which I don't know what other reason he would, is ridiculous. It doesn't serve any purpose. All it does is give you bad press. That's all
Yeah.
it does. Because it's going to be plastered all over social media, which is where a lot of people get their information now. So yeah, it doesn't serve you any purpose. It doesn't hurt WWE that they're not getting Ray Phoenix and they're not getting Ricky Starks. WWE is going to go on and be the top company in the world regardless of that.
Yeah.
So what does it matter to you if you keep these guys and never use them? So it doesn't make any sense to me at all why you would do this. So, and like I said, I don't know. I hope it gets resolved because I feel bad for Ricky because Ricky is really really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed watching Ricky Starks a lot. I mean, he went toe to toe on the mic with MJF, which not a lot of people can do.
Yeah.
Um, and he's got that total package. It's just he's not a giant, but we've seen. I mean, Daniel Bryan, or excuse me, Bryan Danielson showed you you don't have to be a giant to compete in wrestling and be a big star. You can do it if you have all those things. If you're good on the mic, if you're a great wrestler, if you can connect with the audience, and Ricky Starks can do that. So I hope that it gets resolved for him, and I hope Ray Phoenix's situation does too, because the Lucha Brothers are a great tag team, and there's not a lot of great tag teams in wrestling now. So
Yeah.
and it seems like WWE is kind of maybe trending a little bit more towards tag teams. So hopefully that can be fixed. But right now, just Tony Khan doing this to these guys, it just doesn't make him look good at all.
No, Ricky Starks has an opportunity here to really to go back to AEW and really parlay this recent press into something substantial in terms of an angle, in terms of a character and an approach to how he operates in AEW. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that he's bound for WWE. I think he's going to be in NXT probably within the next year. But we'll see. Time will tell. In terms of Phoenix, I how many guys have left WWE and just you know express their displeasure with the company, and then 90 days later they're in AEW. How many? I mean, how many guys, or how many guys have left WWE and show up in AEW, and it's like they've done something really great for their career, because it is. If you leave one job and go to another and you're happier there, that's good for your career. If Ray Phoenix and Penta can do that, why not let them do it? Just doesn't seem. It just doesn't. I mean, press aside, it just doesn't seem like the morally right thing to do, but or ethically. But not to exclude Jade Cargill from this conversation, because I definitely, maybe we'll end here. We've talked about before. Both of us were fans of Jade Cargill and AEW, and I'm not saying that I care for her less now because she's in WWE, but I don't like how they've used her. I think it's hurt Bianca Belair. It's dragged her down a little bit, and we've heard all the there's just a gamut of people who have worked with her: Brian Danielson, Mark Henry, Madison Rain. You know, I'm sure she worked at the PC for a while in WWE. I'm sure she's trained with some of the best trainers in the world. She just does
Mhm.
not seem to get better at wrestling.
No, no.
How?
And
No, I'm sorry.
sorry to interrupt. I'll just say that, um, yeah, I think you get people who in any profession are just they can be trained by the best to ever do it. They can have all the experience in the world, but sometimes they can't get it.
Yeah,
They can't figure it out, and it's no fault of their own, for putting in the effort to try. But I think you just have people who they have the look, which she clearly has, um, and she kind of has a certain aura to her. But as far as in ring, it doesn't seem like it clicks. And and like you said, it's really kind of dragged Bianca down, having her be in a tag team when she's such a great wrestler, such a great character, and that's kind of one of the reasons. Not them. I'm hoping it's not a legitimate injury to Jade Cargill. I'm hoping it's just storyline for whatever reason. But I am excited for Bianca to be able to kind of get back to being a singles competitor and being a part of the main, women's rivalries and trying to get the women's championship. So that's one of the good things about it. But yeah, for Jade, it just doesn't seem like it's ever going to click with her.
No, you look at women like Tiffany Stratton or Anna Jay or Sky Blue or um, Soul Rucker really impresses me a lot in NXT. Julia Hart. They've all been wrestling about as long as Jade Cargill. Some of them maybe a year or two more, some of them maybe a year or two less. And they all have far in a way exceeded what she's been able to accumulate in that time in terms of, improvement. I mean, Sky Blue, Anna Jay, really two great wrestlers. Julia Hart has gotten really good in the ring. Tiffany Stratton, phenomenal in the ring. Or Sol Rucka, super great in the ring. That's just a few examples, but you'd expect by now Jade Cargill has acquired some level of development, and I don't think she's any better now than she was in 2022 in AEW, which is a problem because she's wrestled some really great women.
Yeah,
She's worked with a lot of really, really great wrestlers, and has just not been able to to learn anything to improve substantially. And in fact, I think sometimes I'm watching the WWE and I think she looks worse than she did in AEW,
yeah,
because she's not wrestling singles matches as often. And I don't know what her house schedule looks like. I don't, not really keeping up with that sort of thing. But just in terms of the TV matches, it doesn't look like she's improved at all since she left AEW.
yeah,
Um, I can't imagine that that makes the other women on the roster happy
yeah,
because time is being invested in this woman who has shown to, I mean, the equity is not worth it. She hasn't improved at all.
yeah,
How much stock can you get? You get a WrestleMania match with her and Bianca out of it. Hopefully, they don't turn Bianca heel because that would suck.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, you get a WrestleMania match out of it, and then what?
yeah. I
The
mean,
best women's wrestler on the main roster. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it could be a situation where they're just like, look, this isn't working. This is going nowhere. Let's write her off TV. See if we really, put in time for her off screen where she's not taking away opportunities from other people and she's not dragging Bianca down, and we can really work with her and see if we can finally get something out of her, but not devote TV time to it.
yeah,
Maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just like, it's not working. We need to try something different. We need to chart a new course, and we'll write her off TV for a while and see if we can figure out something else to do with her. Um, but whatever the case is, it will be Bianca will be the best. Um, will come out of it the best because she finally can kind of go back to what she was doing, and she can be Bianca Belair, the singles competitor, the constant women's title main eventer,
yeah.
and hopefully they can get back to that because the women's division definitely needs her.
Desperately, they need. I mean, she's I would say a pillar of this new era of women's wrestling and in WWE, and they really need her bad. Because you know, the division is kind of is a black hole right now. There's I mean Nia Jax is Nia Jax, but they need someone else to be the face
Yeah.
of that brand right now. So you know, anyways, um, anything else you want to add, Jordan?
No, no, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Talked a lot about a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we covered it all.
Um, yeah, we'll be back next week with the Survivor Series review. And we have big plans for December. So I think we have some really fun episodes planned. But yeah, we'll be back next week with the Survivor Series review. Jordan and I are going to watch it together. Um, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of thoughts because we love a lot of wrestlers involved and we don't like a lot of them. So, I'm sure it'll be very polarizing. But thank you as always. Once again, please like, subscribe, share the video, comment. Let us know what you think about the episode, about what we said. Let us know about what you think about some of these topics. And yeah, Jordan, talk to him, man.
Top dogs out.